This learning object is a production of Abu Dhabi Men's College, Center of Excellence for ICT and Learning Technology.
In this third presentation, we're going to be looking at PowerPoint do's and don'ts, the things that make a good PowerPoint and the things that will stop your PowerPoint from being so good and will stop your audience from understanding so well. The do's. If you can, keep the same background in your presentation. About halfway through, it might be okay to change, but for your first slides, keep the background the same. Use visuals. Don't use too many, but the visuals will make for some interest and will bring your audience's attention onto the PowerPoint. Have a big enough font size. Do not have small writing. Your audience can't read it. Have a concluding slide so that your audience knows when you are finishing your PowerPoint. The don'ts. Do not put in too much text. The PowerPoint isn't there for text. It's there for signposting and for giving general information, and your audience cannot read large amounts of text on the screen. Don't use too many animations. Visuals are good, but don't use animations that jump around the screen and confuse your audience. Don't put a dark text on a dark background. Your audience will not be able to read it. Don't rush your slides. It's good to have nice transitions, but don't use them so fast. You will confuse your audience and they will get lost. Don't close the presentation at the end too quickly. Wait. Think about the content of your presentation and think about your audience and give them time. Before we look at Joe's third presentation, look again at the list. You will see for presentation 1, all the things that she should or shouldn't do. Tick the things that you see her do well or the things that you see her do badly.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josephine Kennedy, and today I'd like to talk to you about visiting another country, Japan. It is a very interesting country to visit, both historically and for things that are going on today. To begin with, I'd like to talk with you about various things. First, we'll look at general information. Next, we will look at places to visit. And finally, I'll give you time for questions if you'd like to ask any. First of all, I'd like to tell you about the location of Japan. Japan is an island country in East Asia. It is located on the Pacific Ocean and lies to the east of the Sea of Japan, China, North and South Korea, and Russia. It is a very long country and also has many islands, particularly in the south. It means sun origin country, which is why people sometimes call Japan the land of the rising sun. So we've looked at the location. Now let's move on and look at the weather. The weather in Japan varies greatly because it's a very long country. In the north, you get huge amounts of snow, and it's some of the best snow I've ever skied or snowboarded on in the world. Also, in the around September, in this area of Japan, they get huge typhoons. The cities often flood, which is very dangerous. In the spring, you get beautiful fields of lavender as the weather warms up, and finally, in the fall, you get very cool temperatures, particularly in the evenings, and stunning colors of leaves throughout the country, really. So I've given you some general information about the location of Japan and the weather that you might experience in Japan. So now let's look at places that I think you should visit. I think you would enjoy Sapporo, and this is in the north of Japan, again, where you get amazing snowboarding. That's me. And also incredible snow festivals where they build all of these structures out of ice, usually over 700. So you can go in the month of February and tour around and look at all of the ice sculptures. You can also get some of the more traditional buildings in the north of Japan. This is an old schoolhouse that was built in the 1900s. So that's some information about Sapporo, the winter capital of Japan. And you may also like to visit Kyoto and Hiroshima, where many people say the traditional heart of Japan is. You may have heard about geisha, the traditional performing artist in Japan. You can go and drink tea with them if you have a lot of money. You may also like visiting some of the more famous old castles. They'll let you tour around and teach you about how life was back then. And finally, I recommend that you visit the Hiroshima Dome. This is a museum where they have a very interesting history about the bombs that the Americans, the atomic bombs that the Americans used in Hiroshima at the end of World War II. I highly recommend that you visit all of these places in Kyoto and Hiroshima. So we've looked at various places that you can visit in Japan, and now I'd like to ask if you have any questions. No questions? John?
Is it easy to travel in Japan?
Very easy. They have one of the best train systems I've ever seen, and the signs are in English, so even if you don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, you can get around. But it's not very cheap, John. Okay. Thank you. I hope with this information and some of the interesting cities that you might like to visit, that you'll go to Japan and have a fabulous time.
Now that you've seen Jo's third presentation, let's look at some of the things she did well, but more importantly, some of the things she did not do so well. In the beginning, you'll see that she did use the same slide background, and that makes for a nice presentation at the beginning. This changed later, but that was okay. You will also notice that some of the text came onto the screen as if it was being typed and with sound. This is not so good. It doesn't make for good presentation and it distracts your audience. She did use visuals, but be careful. Make sure your visuals do not block text or block the background too much. And make sure the colors do not clash. You will have seen some of the text was really too small and very difficult to see. Be careful with your text size. Don't rush your slides. Jo did use a concluding slide, but overall, there were things that needed improving there. What you've seen here is a lot of information on giving PowerPoint presentations. First of all, we looked at behavior, how you stand, how you walk about, and how you present yourself. Secondly, we looked at the language you can use to make your PowerPoint slides work and to make your audience understand what you're saying. And thirdly, we looked at the do's and don'ts of a PowerPoint presentation. Look at these carefully. There are many things that you can use that can enormously improve your PowerPoint presentations. You do not have to use all of these things. Select what you need. PowerPoint is not about giving your audience huge amounts of information. It's about giving enough information for you to tell them what they need to know.